Välkomna tillbaka in igen. Jag hoppas att Gerhards sista ord precis innan lunchen gav er extra energi att verkligen ha någonting att prata om. Det vi glider in på nu, det är ju egentligen också en viktig förutsättning när vi pratar om IT och inte minst i public transportation, kollektivtrafik, så kommer ofta frågan upp dels om öppen data, det har vi redan varit inne på, men också om standardiseringar. Och standardisering, ska det vara någonting som är regionalt eller ens en gång nationellt, eller behöver vi det på EU-nivå eller kanske rent utav globalt? Ja, det beror naturligtvis på vem man frågar. Jag ska bjuda upp här på scenen Jonathan Hansson som är från Hogia och som tillsammans har med sig en av de talarna som just håller på med standardisering, Emmanuel de Verdalle. Please enter the stage. And now we also change language. But we won't speak in French.
No, we take it in English.
Oh, that's good.
So Emmanuel is with us. Hi, my name is Jonathan Hansen. I'm Managing Director of Hogia Public Transport Systems. And as main partner for this event, I had the opportunity to invite Emmanuel de Verdalle from IT4PT to talk about standardization. And I think we should engage in standardization on the European level because standardization is key when it comes to involving many partners. If we don't have a common language, we can't communicate, we can't work together. And that is key for you as a buyer of systems and functions. You would like to buy from many partners because you would like to have the very best key functions. And you don't want to go to one partner. You would like to have many partners to cooperate. Standardization is key for achieving that, and that is all for the best of the traveler. And I would like to say something, comment on what Gerhard said about the public transport is dead. I, as a supplier of technique, we just do the simplest of things, and we do that for quite a lot of the public transport passengers in the Nordic countries. But now I'm pleased to welcome Emmanuel de Verdalle. He's Exploitation Manager for IT for PT. Please, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the introduction. Okay, so I have this very difficult task to be the first speaker just after the lunch. It's always the main critical time slot in this type of conference. But okay, that's why I will speak in English, maybe just because I don't speak Swedish. So let's speak about paradigm shift in public transport ITS. So it seems to be a very large topic, and the first question is, why do we need a paradigm shift for the ITS? And the best answer is just to look at the current situation of ITS in our public transport vehicles, but also at the back office level. And I think you are very familiar with this type of picture here, with a lot of IT systems installed in the vehicle, a lot of wires, a lot of antennas on the roof, a lot of driver screen in the driver cab, because each system is proprietary and each system is implementing its own GPS, its own Wi-Fi, its own interface. And this is a critical issue for the public transport operators and public transport authorities in terms of installation of the system, in terms of maintenance of the systems, in terms of evolutivity of the systems with a lot of servers, a lot of database, and again, a lot of different interfaces. So it's just a nightmare for the stakeholders to work in this situation, considering that there are more and more IT systems installed on board the vehicles. So based on this context, the association UITP has launched a few years ago, it started in 2008, some European project trying to federate key public transport stakeholders around this main issue of the ITS and trying to define a new architecture, new paradigm around this ITS architecture. One of the main projects and main outcomes has been first the EBSF project, European Bus System of the Future project, #1, because we will speak about the next one later. But the first European Bus System of the Future project has been launched in 2008 and finished in 2012. And one main working group of this project has been to define new IT architecture for this ITS. A second main project is 3IBS for Innovative, Integrated and Intelligent Bus System, which has finished in 2014. And the main outcome of this project has been to define some guidelines to apply the technical specification coming from EBSF. So these two main European projects has federated public transport authorities, public transport operators, IT suppliers and vehicle manufacturers working all together to define a new IT architecture. And this has been the main outcomes. But these outcomes are not sufficient themselves. The second step has been to work on the standardization, the official standardization, thanks to the CEN bodies, which are the European standardization bodies, dealing with the publication of standards, the EN standards. And the main relevant group dealing with the IT standards for public transport is the CEN 278 Working Group 3. And this group is defining the well-known standard like Siri, like NetEx. You are fully aware about this one, I'm quite sure, at the back office level. And this same group has defined the EN 13149 standard, which is dealing with the onboard IP communication in the vehicles. And this standard has been built based on the outcomes from the European project I just mentioned, EBSF and 3IBS. And it's very important, this standardization step, because standardize at the early stage is always a main benefit to pave the way for adoption of these technologies by the PTA, by the PTO, and preparing the industrialization from the IT suppliers and vehicle manufacturers. But the standard itself is not enough. It's not enough because the standards is just some papers, and every suppliers, every stakeholders can interpret and implement the standards in its own way. So that's why in 2013, again with UITP, has been launched IT4PT Association. This association has a goal to federate all public transport stakeholders, operators, authorities, IT suppliers, and vehicle manufacturers, again, to support the deployment of the standards in public transport fleets and public transport networks. Because the main issue once materials are available, technical specifications, standards for this architecture, the main issue so is to deploy, to install this architecture in the public transport vehicles, taking also into account the current status of the systems already installed, because of course you will not change everything just in one day. You have to take into account of the state of the art and to evaluate, to support the deployment step by step of this new architecture. And this is the main work of IT4PT associations. So in terms of concrete results regarding the IT architecture, the first main part of the architecture has been to define some standards regarding the hardware interface. The hardware interface means the connectors between the system. And here, in fact, the main idea is to say, okay, we are in a situation where we have, again, a lot of systems, a lot of proprietary interfaces, a lot of redundancies of key features. This is the context in our public transport vehicles. And on the other side, we have this type of tool, we have some computers, and we don't think when we plug a USB key on our computer, if the computer is the right brand, the right model, the right color. No. USB connector is standard. You put your USB key or any other devices, and it's plug and play. So the idea is to reproduce exactly the same technologies we are using every day in our life in the architecture of public transport vehicles. So the first step is to define this hardware connectors for power supply, for IP connection, to have a standard hardware interface between the systems. The second part of the standardization is to define a communication protocol in order to have a common grammar between the different systems and to be able to communicate with standard technical rules, technical mechanisms to exchange some informations. The last, but not least, step in the standardization is to define the data model, the common vocabulary, in order to exchange some information in a same way, in a same format. And the result of these three different levels, the hardware interfaces, the communication protocol, and the data model, is a full interoperable IT architecture for IT systems on board, but also at the back office level, thanks to other set of standards, again, like Siri or NetX, which are already very well known. What are the benefits of this type of work in the standardization? Of course, the main benefit is to have a cost-effective IT architecture, which is modular, scalable, reusable. First of all, the main goal is to support the authorities and the operators to have access to compliant IT systems, IT modules. To support the dynamic of IT standards, because again, IT standards is a material, but it's important to support the deployment and the dynamic. To rely on a reference technical platform, to have a common set of tools to validate the compliancy with the standard, and to share experience and best practices between all stakeholders which are sharing the same issue and sometimes which are answering, unfortunately, with different technical solutions. And last but not least is to enable competitive IT tenders, which is, of course, key in terms of business model. The current material available to support this deployment is first a common online documentation center. It's a key point because this portal gives access to all relevant technical documentation, technical specifications, guidelines, standards, some tenders, and current implementation which are based on this IT standard architecture. So it's an online documentation centers, and it gives all access to this different set of documents. The second main material available is the technical platforms. I already mentioned it, and this platform are a concrete implementation of such IT architecture, which is based on systems which has been delivered by the supplier member of the association and which is used to validate the compliance of the systems with the standard. So it's an integrated platform with remote access and test procedure. And the main goal here is to define some test procedure to deliver label which can be used by the PTA and the PTO to validate the compliance and the consistency of the systems with the related standards. So this is the current panel of members of the association. So again, we have main PTA, main PTO, IT suppliers and vehicle manufacturers, with more and more Nordic members which are involved. The last one is Reuter, which just joined few weeks ago. That's why I mention it, but you can see all the other on the screen here. So this is the status and the context of IT4PT Association. Then what are the next steps now? And one of the main one is the EBSF2 project. So EBSF2 project, of course, is the next stage of EBSF. And EBSF2 European project is dealing with the implementation on the field of these IT standards. And one of the main demonstration which is run in this project is the one with Transport for London, where we are preparing the AVMS interoperability of IT systems based on the IT standards. The goal of this EBSF demo is to work on 3 levels of interoperability. The first one is onboard interoperability. We have already defined it in the previous slides. The second part is the over-the-air communication, so it means the link between the vehicle and the back office. And the last part is the back office itself, so it means the communication between the systems at the back office to exchange some key data like schedule and routes between the different suppliers of AVMS. And for TfL, the main goal and the main target is the next tenders, which is planned for 2020 regarding the IT systems. So Transport for London is running this demo in order to prepare this tender. And here you can see the different standards which are involved in this demo, the EN 13149 for the onboard part, AirTIG specification for over-the-air interface, and Syrian text again at the back office level. So this demo is full integrated and full interoperability architecture based on these IT standards. The main partners of the demo are 4 AVMS suppliers, so the interoperability will be demonstrated with 4 different suppliers of AVMS systems, Init, Ineo, IVU, and Trapeze, 1 supplier of communication gateway, which is a pilot fish, and 1 integrator at the back office level, which is Ogia. Transport for London, of course, and Metro Lines are the PTA and PTO involved in the demo. Okay, so what's next? Now the next steps regarding IT4PT are first to support the tendering process. So it means to have some tenders, and there are already some tenders with references to this standard IT architecture. The second main objective is to have a reference catalog of IT modules which are compliant with these standards. And thanks to the IT4PT architecture and platforms, this is now possible to define this catalog of modules which has been validated on the integrated platform. And the last is to continue to work on new IP services, new protocols, because of course we are now speaking about mobility as a service, so it means that there are some services existing today and there are some services which will come, and maybe we don't have them in mind for now. So the standard has to be dynamic. It means has to be enriched every time new services are coming. And this is a main challenge because, of course, the standards has to rely on a very clear set of technical specification, but has also to take into account the trend and the dynamic of the new services available. So to conclude, this paradigm shift regarding the ITS in public transport is today really a reality and is now more and more deployed in public transport network. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Emmanuel. I just have to ask you, is there anyone against standardization?
No, I will say there is nobody against standardization, but the main challenge is to apply it. Yeah. So it's a challenge, I will say. But
and also in all state members
yes, right.
of the EU?
You're right, you're right. The interoperability now is national and between countries, for sure. Yes.
And just to tell the people here in the audience, the Swedish position, are we well prepared?
You are very well prepared. As you have seen in the current members, there are a lot of Sweden partners, a lot of Nordic partners. So I have to say that yes.
Big companies from Sweden as well?
Yeah. Sweden is pushing in the right direction for sure.
Good. I just wanted you to say that. So, thank you very much, Emmanuel. A big applause. Jag tänker att det här med standardisering som vid ett första ögonblick egentligen kan låta så tråkigt. Men när man väl börjar förstå inser att hur otroligt viktigt det faktiskt är. En annan sån här aha-upplevelse som jag faktiskt själv har fått tagit på mig, det är när jag har tjatat genom åren på våra barn hemma som ägnar alldeles för mycket tid att sitta vid datorn. De är ständigt uppkopplade tills man nu börjar inse att så är livet. Jag har till och med kallat dem för nördar. Men när jag också har förstått att just nördar kan bli framtidens hjältar. Jag ska nu presentera för er en av dem som för några år sedan just fick epitetet trafiklabbshjälten, nämligen Johan Nilsson. Och här förstår man verkligen vad kunskap kan göra nytta. Han ska berätta om hans resa. Välkommen!
Tack.